The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own. They may not be the opinions of this network, their groups, or other organizations they may be involved with.
Ganja my meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja weed take away my stress and strain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. 100 way to Cali, we be bring it on tour. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking marijuana around you. Ganja in me daily, ganja on me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily pay. Give me revelation, it's not to get too much, yet it's been growing. So long, that's why we call it.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ganja News Update for this Monday, May 27th, here on NOK Network. This is episode 81. This is the video news podcast focused on cannabis news being reported in mainstream media. And I'm joined by my amazing joint host, Tarra Simpson. Hello, Tarra, and how are you doing today?
I am well, Ron. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Hello, I am doing great. I've been busy out in the gardens this past week, and I got my Canna Zen garden all planted, as well as we got most of our vegetable garden planted, except for the tomatoes and brassicas.
Wow,
so we're
fantastic.
ahead this season, so we're just crossing our fingers we don't get frost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, having a few, ground tarps and some stakes might, just keeping the frost off of them, right?
We're all prepared.
That's the key. Absolutely. I know I have my plants going in this week. I had some more work to do in my garden to, just finish turning the soil now that I actually have proper garden tools to work with and, digging stumps out and all sorts of, roots and stuff I'm finding in there. Like, where the heck did this come from?
I know. Same here. We've been doing the same thing.
Yeah. But so things are looking up. Garden should be planted soon, and then I just got to finish my coop so I can get my chickens, and it's going to be zen back there. That's the plan.
Yeah, our chickens. Oh man, they're so easy to take care of. Have you ever had chickens before?
No, my mom did for years. After I left home, she moved in with her boyfriend and lived out in the country, and they had chickens and they had rabbits. I mean, all sorts of, again, garden type stuff going on. But the chickens were like her favorite. And she said they're so easy to keep.
Yeah. They're very easy to keep. We've got 10, and we get 9 to 10 eggs a day.
Nice.
And
nice.
we overwintered them as well. So
wow.
And we're in Northern Ontario, so we get some pretty cool weather.
And you can have 10 there, can you?
We can have however many we want, really.
Really?
I'm in an unorganized township.
Ah, gotcha. Oh, right. I can only have 4, so
that sucks. But
yeah,
4 is some. At least you got some.
Yeah. Yep, 4 is better than none, right?
Right.
Yep.
So I guess now enough of the garden talk, enough of the chicken talk, and now for our top stories in cannabis news from around the globe. Right? So we got some great stories coming up for everyone here. And here we go. I can't remember what. Yeah, we'll go with this. We'll go with this format here. So I'll lead off with this one. This one here is coming to us from StratCan. StratCan for the cannabis community. Alberta makes changes to retail secure storage, simulated or actual mixing of cannabis, and more. And this is from May 15th, 2024, by David Brown. New cannabis stores in Alberta may have a chance to save money on their secure storage rooms after recently announced regulatory changes from the AGLC. The changes were part of a handful of announced Alberta gaming, liquor, and cannabis on May 10th. Retailers can also now use samples from producers in sensory containers in store, along with changes to record keeping for such sensory displays. The AGLC also removed a section of their provincial rules that had previously prohibited the quote, simulated act of mixing cannabis, end quote, in retail stores.
This last piece is a reference to a section from the Provincial Retail Cannabis Handbook that had previously prohibited the simulated or actual mixing, application, or consumption of cannabis with other ingredients or substances. A request from clarification was made to the AGLC on May 13th. No reply was available at press time. This section was removed from concerns the section this was removed from concerns what kind of activities are permitted in cannabis stores. Previously, there were more restrictions on what type of activities can occur within a cannabis store other than the sale of cannabis. A source close to the issue explained to Strat Canada that while stores still cannot be used for activities not related to cannabis, for example, hosting an art show or yoga class, events or activities that are directly related to cannabis can now occur within the store. The section that this had previously prohibited a cost being charged to the public directly or indirectly to attend an activity in a retail cannabis store was also removed as part of this recent set of changes. Most of the changes are cleaning up aspects of Retail Cannabis Handbook, but include the announcement that AGLC may now approve alternative construction methods to secure cannabis rooms. Interesting.
Yeah. It goes on here to say, as of January 2024, the AGLC no longer requires retailers to keep their products in locked display cases when the store is closed. However, these new changes can still mean significant savings for any future stores seeking to create a secure storage area. There's a quote: "We've been looking at the cannabis market to determine what's working, what needs to be improved, and what's redundant or unnecessary while protecting public health and safety." You know, I really don't like that term, protecting public health and safety, because when I hear that, all I hear is protecting corporate interests.
Yeah, exactly.
I said it. That's just my piece, but
yeah, I hear you.
What it is, 100%.
Yeah.
We're talking cannabis here, one of the safest plants available on this planet.
That's good for your health.
Exactly. Exactly. And they're trying to still restrict it and still say that it's bad. Anyways, moving on. That was a quote from Dale Nally, Minister of Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction. At the time, those initial changes came into force on January 31st. Nally has been one of the provincial government's key voices on regulatory change for the cannabis industry through the Red Tape Reduction Act. Nally and other ministers and Alberta MLAs were also part of a recent cannabis industry lobbying day on May 9th in Edmonton, put together by an Alberta-based consulting firm that works in the cannabis space. Alberta has led the country on several recent cannabis regulatory changes. In addition, in 2022, the province removed the requirement for window coverings for the cannabis retailers, and in 2023, Alberta began allowing producers to hand out samples at cannabis events. The AGLC also announced in late 2023 that the agency had reduced the SKU listing for had reduced the SKU listing fee for cannabis producers. Previously $1,500, the reduced cost to list a new SKU to sell in the Alberta market is now $250. And that there tells you how much of a racketeering program they had and still have set up.
Absolutely. It's crazy that, like they have all these fees and tariffs and,
Yeah.
on a plant that, should be fully accessible and not taxed to death, right? Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more. Preaching to the choir.
I know.
Right?
I know, right? Absolutely.
So, anyways, we're going to move over to our next story, and you can take this one off.
Yeah, so this one comes to us from Global News, and it's U.S. makes formal move to ease marijuana rules. What happens next? And this was written by Lindsay Whitehurst, the Associated Press, on May 16th of 2024. So the Justice Department on Thursday formally moved to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug, a historic shift in generations of U.S. drug policy. A proposed rule sent to the Federal Register recognizes the medical use of cannabis and acknowledges it has less potential for abuse than some of the nation's most dangerous drugs. The plan, approved by Attorney General Merrick Garland, would not legalize marijuana outright for recreational use. The Drug Enforcement Administration will take public comments on the proposal in a potentially lengthy process. If approved, the rule would move marijuana away from its current classification as a Schedule I drug alongside heroin and LSD. Pot would instead be a Schedule III substance alongside ketamine and anabolic steroids. Oh my effing God. Anyways.
It's right directly into the hands of the medical industry.
Like, to compare it to ketamine and anabolic steroids is absolute ludicrous insanity. Just my opinion.
I would compare it more closely to you've got the psychoactive effects of this, but for medicinal benefits overall, I would have it compared more to say you got, like, people make oil of oregano.
Yeah.
And that is widely accepted as a really good health benefit to you, right?
Right.
Well, why not cannabis oil?
Right. It's a health supplement. We know it works. It helps many conditions, but we can't get into that. The move comes after a recommendation from the Federal Health and Human Services Department, which launched a review of the drug status at the urging of President Joe Biden in 2022. Biden has also moved to pardon thousands of people convicted federally of simple possession of marijuana and has called on governors and local leaders to take similar steps to erase convictions. Oh boy.
And this is monumental, Biden said in a video statement, calling it an important move toward reversing longstanding inequities. Far too many lives have been upended because of a failed approach to marijuana, and I'm committed to righting those wrongs. You have my word on it. Well, if you're committed to righting those wrongs, Mr. Biden, then you need to deschedule cannabis instead of reschedule.
Right?
That's what's important for the people. The election year the election year announcement could help Biden, a Democrat, boost flagging support, particularly among younger voters. Does that sound very familiar?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Sounds
Absolutely.
very familiar to our own country here, Canada.
Yep. Turd boy.
Yep. The notice kicks off a 60-day comment period followed by a possible review from an administrative judge, which could be a drawn-out process. Biden and a growing number of lawmakers from both major political parties have been pushing for the DEA decision as marijuana has become increasingly decriminalized and accepted, particularly by younger people. Some argue that rescheduling doesn't go far enough, and marijuana should be instead treated the way alcohol is. See, I hear a lot of people saying that, and I think it should be treated even less restrictive than alcohol.
Absolutely. We know that alcohol leads to so many more other issues, both health-wise, mental health, and community-wise,
Yep.
because alcoholism is a real thing and, does lead to a lot of domestic issues and so on and so forth, right? Which has a trickle effect, which creates more mental health issues, and it's a whole cycle. Cannabis is an exit from that.
It's the love herb. It's the love herb.
Right.
Ask Bob Marley. Ask Bob Marley.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Anyways, this goes on here to say Democratic Senate Majority Leader Senator Chuck Schumer of New York applauded the change and called for additional steps towards legalization. The U.S. Cannabis Council, a trade group, said the switch would, quote, signal a tectonic shift away from the failed policies of the last 50 years, end quote. The Justice Department said that available data reviewed by HHS shows that while marijuana is associated with a high prevalence of abuse, that potential is more in line with other Schedule 3 substances, according to the proposed rule. See, that's a perceived high prevalence of abuse, in my opinion, because you want to always smoke the herb.
Right.
Because of how good it makes you feel. Why is that a bad thing?
Right. It's no different than, Joe Blow down the street comes home and has 2 or 3 beers every night. Why? Because it relaxes him. So again, we're not destroying our liver or brain cells with alcohol. We're actually boosting our immune system and cannabinoid system with cannabis.
Yep, 100%. The HHS recommendations are binding until the draft rule is submitted, and Garland agreed with it for the purposes of starting the process.
Yes. Still, the DEA has not yet formed its own determination as to where marijuana should be rescheduled, and it expects to learn more during the rulemaking process, the document states. Some critics argue the DEA shouldn't change course on marijuana, saying rescheduling it isn't necessary and could lead to harmful side effects. Dr. Kevin Sebett, a former White House drug policy advisor, now with the group Smart Approaches to Marijuana, said there isn't enough data to support moving pot to Schedule 3. As we've maintained throughout this process, it's become undeniable that politics, not science, is driving this decision, and has been since the very beginning, Sebett said. The immediate effects of rescheduling on the nation's criminal justice system is expected to be muted. Federal prosecutions for simple possession have been fairly rare in recent years. Schedule 3 drugs are still controlled substances and subject to rules and regulations, and people who traffic them without permission could still face federal criminal prosecution. Federal drug policy has lagged behind many states in recent years, and with 38 states having already legalized medical marijuana and 24 states legalizing its recreational use, that's helped fuel fast growth in the marijuana industry with an estimated worth of nearly $30 billion. Easing federal tax regulations could reduce the tax burden that can be 70% or more for the marijuana industry, according to industry groups. It could also make it easier to research marijuana, since it's very difficult to conduct authorized clinical studies on a Schedule 1 substance. Wow. Associated Press writer.
I hear a lot of excuses there. I think that was the end of it.
So obviously this is in the US, and they have their state and then they have their federal. Well, their states have already like jumped the gun and gone ahead and, you know, legalized or decriminalized and so on and so forth. But the federal politicians seem to have their head up their butts because we've proven, and that's why it's, you know, legalized even in Canada, that it is not harmful, and it is medicine, and you know the potential for abuse is low. Yet that whole article made it like demonized. Unbelievable.
And that's why we report on these articles from either side, because this is the fight that we're up against.
Right. Yeah.
And
at the federal level there. Yeah.
And people need to really truly remember this, that it only hasn't been classified as a medicine as in the last like 100 years or less, out of the last how many thousands of years.
Right. So I know when it comes down to dollar signs, it's all about control. Right. Exactly. If we can control it, we can make money on it. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on to our last story before the break here. This one is coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Nebraska medical marijuana ballot campaign meets key signature requirement. This was published on May 14th, 2024 by Kyle Yeager. Nebraska activists say they've met a key signature gathering requirement to place a pair of medical marijuana legalization initiatives on the state's November ballot. In an email blast to supporters on Tuesday, Nebraskans for Medical Marijuana, NMM, said that they've now collected valid petitions from at least 5% of registered voters in 38 of the state's 93 counties. One of the main requirements to qualify the cannabis measures for the ballot placement. But we are not done. We still have a big hill to climb to ensure that we have a buffer of signatures so that we are 100% certain we're on the November ballot. Krista Eggers, campaign manager of NMM, had said. And oh geez, my page is going all weird there. There we go. NMM has worked to put medical cannabis on the ballot for the two prior election cycles, only to come short due to setbacks such as the loss of critical funding in the last election cycle and intervention by the state Supreme Court in the prior attempt. There's a quote here. We know from our two previous petition drives that we can't just settle with the lowest possible number of signatures prior to turning in our petitions to the Nebraska Secretary of State, Egger said. So we're taking advantage of every opportunity to keep qualifying counties.
Interesting. The includes signatures gathered at polling locations on Tuesday to take advantage of primary election day. The campaign says it will be circulating petitions through 8 p.m. local time, and they're also soliciting donations to sustain the push. The first of the two current ballot initiatives from the campaign would require lawmakers to codify protections for doctors who recommend cannabis and patients who purchase and possess it. The patient-focused measure says its aim is to enact a statute that makes penalties inapplicable under state and local law for the use, possession, and acquisition of limited quantities of cannabis for medical purposes by a qualified patient with a written recommendation from a healthcare practitioner, and for caregivers to assist a qualifying patient in these activities. That was a mouthful. The other initiative would create a new Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission to provide necessary registration and regulation of persons that possess, manufacture, distribute, deliver, and dispense cannabis for medical purposes. While the campaign has faced setbacks in past elections, advocates got an early start on signatures gathering this round. In addition to meeting the county-based threshold, activists must generally collect signatures from at least 7% of registered voters statewide to qualify for the ballot. Volunteers have been filling out petitions since last July, about 2 months after turning in a pair of complementary legalization initiatives to the Secretary of State's office. Governor Jim Pillen has already voiced opposition to the reform efforts, saying in September that legalization possession demonstrated harm to our children, and that medical cannabis should only be accessible if it's approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Eggers told Marijuana Moment at the time the governor's argument is a cop-out, and she says the campaign will let voters decide for themselves. We can't stop till we get that done. That's where we're at, and that's how our campaign feels. She said, we just keep showing up, and the reason we have to do it is because there is no option.
Right.
Oh,
it's crazy. You sit back and you see all the fight with cannabis and all this. It's like,
yeah,
geez,
yeah.
People are being harmed. People are still being harmed like crazy.
Absolutely.
Like still being put in jail because anyone working outside of the legal framework is
right.
and people don't have proper access to the plant.
Absolutely.
So we still have a fight on here in Canada too.
It's never going to end.
No, it won't until I don't know.
Till they do it right. Till they do it the way it should be, right? Cannabis should be accessible. It should be inexpensive. Available to anyone who needs it medicinally. And let's face it, anyone using it recreationally is using it medicinally. Why? Because it makes them feel better. To come home and smoke a couple joints after a long, stressful day, rather than, maybe getting into a fight with somebody or, wanting to, go through some sort of other program through the government. I won't mention the M program. It does alleviate stress, and that might be a recreational purchase because that person doesn't have a medical license, but they're purchasing it for medicinal health benefits.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to make a little statement here, and this is something it was a big proponent of someone that the cannabis community at large lost yesterday at 2:20 a.m. BC time. Neil Magnuson.
Mm-hmm.
That guy there has been fighting for the rights for this plant, fighting for the rights and freedoms for the people in general, but specifically for this plant as well. And he's a big proponent in the what you just said there about recreational use is that in and of itself is medicinal use, because
absolutely
when you are going for recreation, what is that? That's rest, and that's a little bit of on R&R, right? Rest and relaxation. That's where you go to recreate yourself, to make yourself new, take away all the stress, and make yourself basically a fresh person ready to go on with the fight. That's medical in its very, very simplest form. So
absolutely,
everyone, we're being duped by all these recreational stores all over the place, and them not being able to give medical advice, because every time anyone takes a puff of this, you're going to get the medicinal benefits whether you want to get it or not.
Exactly. We're designed to consume it. We are not designed to consume things like morphine, fentanyl, all those other harmful drugs. Cannabis, though, we actually have receptors for in our bodies.
We do.
Every person on earth has them.
Yep.
So some of us need to fuel them more than others. That's the way it works.
Yep.
That's the way it works. That's science, folks.
Yes.
And that being said,
saying all that, it's medication time.
Time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and we'll be back with more articles making mainstream media news.
That's right. And we'll be back in just a few minutes, folks, here on the Ganja News Update on NOK Network. Got to get my right commercial right screen up here. Here we go.
Psychedelic Tuesdays on NOK Network. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Psychedelic Reporters. Bufo Alvarius is scouring the news wires for stories being reported in the mainstream media on the psychedelic front and passing them on to Hobby's Puppets and Tarra Simpson so they can bring them to you, our listeners, in this 60-minute video news podcast. Tuesday evening news. Join us for Tuesday evening news each week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all your news and information from the world of psychedelic medicine. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on our webpage, social media, and streaming sites, including YouTube and Rumble.
Peace, news, and views on NOK Network. Patients everywhere advocating cannabis evolution with Kim Cooper and Sir Steve-O. Joint hosts interview people in the grassroots and corporate cannabis space across North America and beyond. Sit down with patients, entrepreneurs, lawyers, doctors, and others share their journey with this medicinal plant. So join us for Peace, News, and Views. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where all consumption is medicinal consumption on NOKnetwork.com. Follow and subscribe to NOK Network on social media and streaming sites including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Put it all away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. The IWK 710 Daily Sesh is a virtual gathering where consumers meet up for a toke and some laughs at 7 p.m. Eastern nightly. Originally aired on InfoWikim social media pages, the IWK 710 Daily Sesh is now also podcasted on NOK Network. Rotating joint hosts bring you a variety of content during this 30-minute virtual smoke sesh. Take a break from the stresses in life and put it all away for 30 minutes a day on IWK. Podcasted nightly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NOK Network.
Hey, dudes and dudettes. Enjoy the show, man.
And we're back from our medication session live on Ganja News Updates here on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you, making cannabis news. So let's get at it. So this here, we're going to bring this right on up here. And this first story is coming to us from the Arkansas Advocate. Industry professionals reflect on 5 years of medical marijuana in Arkansas. And this article was written by Mary Hennigan, May 13th, 2024.
Wow.
Since the launch of medical marijuana in Arkansas in 2019, more than 36 storefronts have opened, and at least 102,000 residents have registered for patient cards. Just give me a second, it's making it a little bit bigger. Have registered for patient cards, and revenue has topped $1.1 billion. The industry doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. The latest report from the Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration showed the state's 38 dispensaries sold nearly $45 million of products in February and March combined, bringing the year's revenue to an updated $68 million. Wow. Compared to the end of March 2023, this year's sales are down by about $2 million, but more products have been sold in that time. This year's 17,240 pounds of product trumps the 13,804 pounds sold in 2023. There's a quote. That's a reflection of the more competitive pricing, which is great news for patients, said Scott Harden, spokesperson for the Department of Finance and Administration. Medical marijuana first became available in mid-May 2019, following years of delays due to lawsuits and the legislature in 2017 amending a voter-approved initiative from the previous year. The trajectory of the medical marijuana industry has been on a steady incline since, and rather than shrink under the pressure of the COVID-19 pandemic, the industry thrived, Harden said.
So 5 years of medical marijuana in Arkansas, revenue and pounds sold. So there's a graph there you can check out. Every year since 2019 has been a record-breaking year for sales. Arkansas has also collected more than $127 million in state tax revenue in the last handful of years, about $5 million of which was reported in February and March of 2024. The money from a 4% privilege tax currently helps curb food insecurity by feeding students on free and reduced lunch at public schools, Harden said. Arkansas allows for 40 licensed dispensaries, but 2 of those licenses haven't been issued due to ongoing litigation, Harden said. The state's first license revocation occurred in early May when the Alcohol Beverage Control Division announced action against Green Springs Medical Dispensary in Hot Springs. The revocation resulted from ongoing violations, including selling expired products, according to a release from the ABC. Dragon Vicentic, owner of Green Springs Medical Marijuana Dispensary, told the Arkansas Advocate he would appeal ABC's decision, which will allow the business to remain operational. Interesting.
And patient usage. Reality has far exceeded the expectations of how many Arkansans would hold patient cards in a mature market. Harden said approximately 11,000 people had held patient cards when the first cannabis products were legally sold in 2019, a number that jumped to 43,000 in just 1 year after products reached patients' hands. The latest count exceeds 102,000 And there's no indication of a let-up in new applications, Hardin said. The pace of it has varied, but the fact that we're consistently increased to where we are today with more than 100,000 is going to be interesting to see going forward if it continues over the next couple of years, Hardin said. The money spent on cannabis products already this year shows promise, he said. And though not included in the latest report from the DFA, sales were successful on 420, anecdotally referred to as the unofficial weed holiday. More than $2 million in sales were completed on April 20th alone, which nearly tripled the regular daily average of $750,000. Wow.
Wow, eh?
As of June 2023, 1 in 3 Arkansans with a patient card listed post-traumatic stress disorder as their qualifying condition, according to the most recent data from the Arkansas Department of Health. The next highest qualifying condition was intractable pain, or pain that has not responded to ordinary medications for more than 6 months, at nearly 30%. Patients can list more than one qualifying medical condition, which means some data overlaps. Women made up 53% of the 92,494 patient cards reported in June 2023, and Arkansans aged 25 to 44 held more cards than any other age demographic, according to the health department. White people overwhelmingly reported more cards than other races at nearly 84%.
Wow, that's interesting. I really like that. They're trying to make this be such an evil drug, but yet you have to be on like traditional medications at least for 6 months, which have potential for abuse and habit forming and so on and so forth. We could just start with cannabis and see if it works, and if it doesn't, then maybe go up. Some harm reduction type things that
This is the ultimate form of harm reduction right there.
Absolutely.
couple of puffs literally can save someone's life.
Absolutely. It did for me. That's how it started. The world of weed. Arkansas's cannabis industry came with a learning curve. Bill Peschel, president of the Arkansas Cannabis Industry Association, had no previous background in medical marijuana, but now offers daily assistance on policy issues and regulations. Over the last 5 years, Peschel has crossed paths with many different people in the industry, from growers, retailers, bankers, security guards, and more. He sometimes spends days talking with legislatures to keep them up to speed with what's going on in the world of weed. Peschel said he has also heard from several Arkansans about the health benefits of the products. People say they're getting more sleep, experiencing less anxiety, and have transitioned off opioids, Peschel says. The fears that people expressed when this first passed in 2016 have not come to bear, he said. We have seen social upheaval or spikes in kids with drug issues. We have not seen social upheaval or spikes in kids with drug issues due to medical marijuana. The industry is well regulated in Arkansas, and because it's well regulated, the folks who buy medical marijuana can have confidence in what they're buying. David Berman stated in a similar position to Peschel, in that he also had limited experience with the medical marijuana business. It was, however, his dream job. Now the manager of Natural Relief Dispensary in Sherwood, Berman oversees a staff of 32 employees, 25 who meet with patients directly to find the most beneficial products available. Berman's everyday duties as a manager vary. Sometimes he's filling the store's menu with products from the state's 8 cultivators. Other days he's manning the register and talking with patients. Working in an evolving industry has been a learning on the fly experience, but it's everything he hoped for, he said. The Sherwood dispensary was the second top performing shop in the state in February and March, combined selling 1,067 pounds of product, according to the DFA. Most of the product, Berman said, is raw cannabis flower. More of our patients are just used to that consumption method, he said, but as our market matures, we're educating them on other consumption methods like edibles, vape cartridges, and concentrates. Smokeless products are all the rage for Shake Extraction, a woman-led processor based in Johnston. Owners Julie Brents and Brittany Phillips and Tig Davulas have built a brand specifically tailored to people who want to microdose their products and avoid smoking. In their lab, the women mix cannabinoids with organic oils to make products related to dietary supplements, beauty, and sexual health. The products are crafted with women of all ages at the top of mind. We're in this kind of miscellaneous bucket where we don't fall into any of the main popular cannabis products that are out there, Davulas said. Our products are in a category that we're trying to grow ourselves. Davulas said Shake Extraction is working ahead of where the Arkansas market currently stands with its smokeless products. In return, Phillips says the team is still learning the dispensaries as its buyers, honing in on those products that people want and care about, and finding the right niche has been a huge challenge, Phillips says. It's been layered.
Sounds like a cool business idea there.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like some pretty cool women that are behind it.
Absolutely. That's cool.
I love seeing that, especially in such a male-dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to change. But that's the topic for another show, right?
Yeah.
We're going to carry on here. Vying for change. Arkansans are aiming to improve access to medical marijuana in the state through a ballot measure aptly titled the Arkansas Medical Marijuana Expansion Initiative. Volunteers are currently collecting 90,704 signatures to meet a July deadline. Organizers were unable to estimate how many signatures had been collected at the time of publication. The ballot initiative introduces some major changes, including allowing patients and designated caregivers older than 21 to grow a maximum of 7 mature and 7 younger marijuana plants. It would also expand who can certify patients for medical marijuana cards, from doctors to physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and pharmacists. Other proposed changes would allow providers to qualify patients based on medical need, conduct patient assessments online, and put an end to card application fees. Cards could also last 3 years instead of the current 1 year before expiration. Most people I know, Berman said, they're not getting rid of their card for just 1 year. They really need it for life. And you know what? I agree with that on the Canada ECMPR as well, for both growing and possession to use, because we're not just using it for a year.
We're treating chronic, not acute things, right?
Exactly. It's a lifetime medication for me.
Yeah.
At least in most of the people I know that the circle I hang with. So it's good to see that they're making some of these, or at least proposing some of these changes. If the initiative makes the November 2024 ballot and is approved, Paschal said he expects the cannabis industry to grow at a rapid rate. It would have a spanning impact among people with low incomes and people who live in rural settings, he said. The breakdown is now is still overwhelmingly Caucasian in terms of who has cards, Paschal said. What we're trying to do with this amendment is expand access. And I think we'll see those numbers climb among minority populations if this passes. Even if the measure doesn't make the ballot, Paschal said he still expects the industry to continue to grow, just much more slowly. So that was a pretty cool article, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone, at least an article where they're taking things in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. Medical use usually extends beyond a year, just as, the same conditions we were treating with pharmaceuticals are,
right?
You're not just on those pharmaceuticals usually for a year.
Well,
yeah.
Everyone out there who's making regulations, as much as I believe regulations are way too strict and stringent, there really should be, I don't think really any regulations or whatever, maybe some, but let's make it easier for the patients, because they've we've got it hard enough dealing with our conditions as it is.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. So this next article comes to us from Marijuana Moment, and it's German lawmakers will consider changes to marijuana legalization law related to social clubs and impaired driving this week. Well, isn't that an interesting article? And it's written by Kyle Jaeger, May 15th of this year. German lawmakers are set to consider amendments to marijuana legalization law that took effect last month, with committees of the nation's parliament scheduled to begin debate on changes related to cannabis cultivation at social clubs and impaired driving this week. One of the proposals is set to be taken up by the Bundestag. What the hell is that? On Friday. Would give individual German states greater authority to set restrictions on cultivation at cooperatives that will be able to start dispensing cannabis to members in July. It is slated to be referred to the Health Committee. Currently, adults can possess and grow marijuana for themselves, but there's no sales model in place yet.
A separate measure scheduled for initial debate on Friday would set a per se THC limit for impaired driving. The legislation, which is expected to prove more controversial given a lack of scientific evidence supporting the efficacy of such policies, would make it so drivers would be considered impaired if they have more than 3.5 nanograms per milliliter of THC in their blood. It is expected to be referred to the Transportation Committee. Health Minister Karl Lauterbach, who has led the government's cannabis legalization efforts, had committed to lawmakers that the legalization law could be amended in certain ways after enactment, a compromise that helped avert delay in implementation. Geez, so much stuff on the screen here. Meanwhile, this comes as the government is simultaneously moving forward with the second phase of marijuana legalization to create a pilot program for commercial sales through an administrative process, rather than having lawmakers pass a separate bill to enact the reform as was initially expected. That's an interesting take on it. Lauterbach told members of the Bundestag in December that we are currently examining the commercial sales plan, but with legalization in effect, there's been increased pressure to expedite that process. The Bundesrat, representing the individual states, previously tried to block the now enacted legalization proposal last September, but ultimately failed. Oh, that's the end of that story.
No,
was
it's
a quick
not.
one.
It keeps going. No,
Oh,
it keeps going.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. While Germany's federal cabinet approved the initial framework for legalization measure in late 2022, the government also said it didn't want to get sign off from the EU to ensure, said it wanted to get sign off from the EU to ensure that enacting the reform wouldn't put them in violation of their international obligations. Officials took steps towards legalization in 2022, kicking off a series of hearings meant to help inform legislation to end prohibition in the country. Government officials from multiple countries, including the US, also met in Germany last November to discuss international marijuana policy issues that the host nation works to enact legalization. A group of German lawmakers, as well as Narcotics Drug Commissioner Burkhard Blennerdt, separately visited the U.S. and toured California's cannabis businesses in 2022 to inform their country's approach to legalization. The visit came after top officials from Germany, Luxembourg, Malta, and the Netherlands held a first of its kind meeting to discuss plans and challenges associated with recreational marijuana legislation. Leaders of the coalition government said in 2021 they had reached an agreement to end cannabis prohibition and enact regulations for legal industry, and they first previewed certain details of that plan last year.
Yeah, a novel international survey that was released in 2022 found majority support for legalization in several key European countries, including Germany. Meanwhile, the United Nations UN drug control body recently reiterated that it considers legalizing marijuana for non-medical or scientific purposes a violation of international treaties, though it also said it appreciates that Germany's government scaled back its cannabis plan ahead of the recent vote. And that's the end there. Yeah, really, UN, you're happy with that? You appreciate that they scaled back?
Unbelievable. I love the international obligations, right? Like, tell me this isn't political and money based.
I know.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, I know.
So, anyways, we are on our last story of the evening here, and this one's a pretty cool one. I'm not sure how exactly I feel about with AI and that, but I do see that there is certain benefits, and it's certainly something that we're not going to be able to stop. So, it's an interesting article, though. You can take this one away if you wish.
Okay, so AI is making cannabis cultivation smarter by Katie Robertson. This was May 16th of this year. So it comes to us from MJ Biz Daily. Machine learning is becoming increasingly common in indoor cannabis grows as cultivators use sophisticated sensors and cameras to maintain optimal growing conditions, sound the alarm about threats such as pests or disease, and reduce labor costs associated with both menial and high-level cultivation tasks. Cannabis has always been the enabler of some of these bleeding-edge technologies. Nick Gentry, CEO of North Carolina-based AGI Technologies, said in an interview with MJ Biz magazine, they've had the margins and they've had the budgets to support investing in new technology versus some of the vegetable guys who don't. There are two main reasons why cannabis and other indoor agricultural companies are implementing artificial intelligence or machine learning technologies in their facilities. So the labor and energy and the resources required to grow cannabis indoors are expensive, and the technology powered by artificial intelligence can reduce those costs. Consistency is key in any indoor agriculture facility, and AI can deliver that consistently, even across facilities located in different states. For now, AI is powering sophisticated data collection and monitoring solutions, and technology can help identify pests, disease, and leaf discoloration, Gentry said. AI for indoor agriculture is getting close to being able to monitor and highlight what isn't visible in a grow, such as growth rate changes in plants. In the future, AI will be able to enhance growth rates once consistency has been reached. You've established what you can do, consistency across that baseline, Gentry says. Now let's improve the crops. Interesting.
Yeah, more precision, less labor for Stephen Hess, the head of cultivation at Arizona-based cannabis company 22 Red. AI's gift is eliminating much of the manual and logistical work involved in cultivating cannabis. That means Hess can save on labor costs and free up time to focus his energies elsewhere. As a quote, I don't want to look at 47 different set points, quantify those numbers, create 9 overlays, and say, here's the solution, Hess told MJ Biz magazine. At 22 Red, Hess implemented the Spider from San Francisco-based tech company Neatleaf. The technology includes multiple sensors that traverse the canopy of indoor grows to track data such as leaf color, temperature, and humidity multiple times per day for individual plants and microclimates within the facility. The Spider AI's technology then assesses that data to detect patterns or signs of stress. Its findings are presented on a dashboard with charts, heat maps, and light maps for Hess and his team to pore over. Before the Spider, Hess deployed his team with handheld sensors to gather the same kind of data through 22 Red's cultivation rooms. Workers spent 5 to 10 minutes per plant or microclimate. He said, the labor cost savings using the Spider are significant. I only need 6 growers on site versus 10, Hess said. And rather than paying $50,000 each in annual salaries to 4 employees, he's paying $600 for the Neatleaf subscription, plus another $600 per month for evaluations, another benefit of the service. And plus, Hess said, the Spider's recommendations are more precise because the software is making calculations based on things the system has learned, gauging crop deficiencies at other cultivation sites it is monitored, he said. And it gives me more consistency, which then gives us more quality throughput with what we're trying to do from an evaluation standpoint to utilize that data to make the best decision for the canopy, Hess said.
Wow.
Very interesting stuff that's coming out.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great because, it's boosting their profit margins. Great that it's helping quality because, we all want quality, but there's definitely a money factor in it all, as always. Specialty data. Elmar Amer, a co-founder of Neatleaf, said the company has so far implemented the Spider at 30 facilities. The company has a backlog of clients and a 2-month-long wait list that includes non-cannabis cultivators such as berry growers. One of the other powerful aspects of the Spider is its ability to look back in time and even compare the health from one plant to give examples of the same strain grown in previous years, he said. Plus, you can do it all remotely, so you don't have to be on site. You can look at the garden without being in the space. Multi-state operators can leverage expertise without having to fly around. Not all grows can accommodate the Spider, however. The Spider can't collect data from areas that are too low or blocked, such as in vertical cultivation facilities or grows where pillars would obstruct the sensors.
Consistency at lower costs. Rather than implementing one AI service, Florida-based marijuana MSO Jushi Holdings has worked with mechanical engineers and contractors to ensure that equipment with machine learning drives its building management system. That approach enables Jushi to efficiently collect and analyze data, as well as reduce energy costs and produce cannabis more sustainably, said Ryan Cook, Jushi's Executive Vice President of Operations. Each mechanical unit, such as an air conditioner, connects to the building management system, which gives the cultivation team a bird's eye view of the facility. It makes me sleep better at night knowing that Josh, Jushi's director of cultivation, has access to all our systems, that he can log in there and he can make changes, Cook said. But any manipulation made in the system should be done strategically, Cook cautioned. Everything from humidity to temperature to airflow is impacted by everything else, so making manual tweaks can be risky. Well, the reality is that our systems are so interconnected and everything is learning on a regular basis. If you make those manual adjustments, it takes the system longer to relearn the knowledge that it originally had, Cook said. Malman identifies what set points are required for the grow, and when compressors click on, they adjust the climate to meet preset requirements. Machine learning allows the system to understand whether it should work at 70% or 100% and for how long. Just those minor modifications of the controls make a big difference in how the room can actually manage itself, Cook said. And while the system must learn each facility separately, it learns more quickly by assessing data from multiple facilities, he said. Jushi's technology is not an autonomous system, although Malman said he's curious about vision systems in LED lights and robotic trimmers. With the addition of AI, training cultivation staff is as much about technical skills and data analysis as it is horticulture. For now, building management is about fine-tuning every aspect of the growing process to ensure it's optimized and working synergistically. From irrigation to fertigation, Malman and Cook said analysis allows them to predict what will be required next. We're changing methodologies and our cultivation systems simply based on the fact that we're capable of seeing the future now, Cook said. You can predict where we're heading simply based on being able to analyze that data faster.
Wow.
And the tech world is just...
It's interesting because at one time, I mean, you would have experts, let's say Ron McNabb, cultivator guru expert who goes facility to facility and checks these things and is supposed to be able to remember 30 million different numbers and, was this facility set up this way, all this stuff. So the computer now becomes that expert. Who now doesn't have to go facility to facility and can compare facilities against each other, which is really interesting. But again, it cuts down on the need for humans, which again, the human connection is so important, especially when you're dealing with plants. Why? Because they are alive and have energy. So talking to your plants and spending time with your plants is a very important tool in growing.
Yes, 100%. And we're both gardeners, so I know exactly what you're talking about there.
Absolutely. So interesting. Good on them, but I'm not a big AI fan.
Yeah. That's why I said what I said at the beginning. I'm not a big AI fan, really, because I know where it's probably going to end up going.
Yeah.
But you also see there's a lot of benefits in it as well.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do to stop it. So I might as well learn as much about it as I can.
Absolutely. In case one day we have to override it somehow. Just say it.
Hey, are we living in the Matrix here?
Right. That's
it's been such a great show, everyone. And with that, I just want to thank you all for joining us here this week on Ganja News Update on NOK Network. For tuning into our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and social media pages and sites such as LinkedIn, to X, and Twitch. There may be a few more out there. And so thank you all for joining.
And we really hope you've enjoyed the update on mainstream media coverage of cannabis news and information from around the globe.
And many thanks to our sponsors for making this show possible. And thank you to my joint host, Tarra Simpson, and to you, our listeners, for joining us here each week on Meducation Mondays with Ganja News Update on NOK Network. And before we close off, I just want to do one quick thing here. I meant to discuss it with you quickly, Tarra, but this is just one moment because I know you got to go and we're blocked out of time here. But I just want to put up this overlay here, and maybe we can each just sit over on the other side so we can see everyone here. Maybe we can just I don't know if you got anything ready to light there, but we're just gonna light one up and have a moment of silence for to remember Neil and the legacy that he started, and that is going to continue to grow.
Absolutely.
So here we go, Neil. We love you for all the work that you created, and we will never give up the fight. Gotta light it a second time. It's a cone.
It happens.
There we go. We're coming. Oh, geez. I should have had a bong here ready. There we go. Peace, everyone. Good night. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Take care.
Ganja my meditation, ganja my brain. Ganja weed take away my stress and strain. Ganja my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away my stress and pain. Ganja in my meditation, ganja in my brain. Marijuana take away the stress and pain. Ganja is the medication, ganja is the cure. Police of them a fight the marijuana for sure. Purify me heavens and they make me feel pure. 100 way to Cali, we need bring it on tour. Ganja in the meditation, ganja in my clothes. No offense, I'm smoking another one around you. Ganja in the daily, ganja me currency. Ganja is the currency and daily pay. Give me the revelation, it's not to get too much credit, it's been growing so long, that's why we call it.